Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Lawn Care CEO podcast. My name is Dan Ralphs. I'm the head coach here at Lawn Care CEO, and I'm with the CEO of the Lawn Care CEO, Aaron Suttonfield. And we're happy to have you with us. We're happy to have you with us on the podcast. I'll tell you what. Here's what we're going to be talking about today. Probably, I don't know. It's at least in the top 5 most requested topics that we as coaches want to address and talk about. Would you say top 5?
Sure. I mean, it could be top.
Could be number 1.
Yeah.
It could be number
this
1.
in marketing.
It's definitely got an argument for being number 1 as the most important thing that we need to talk about and honestly be as a great leader and CEO. We need to be able to nail this piece, or else probably it's going to haunt us.
Probably the biggest headache.
Actually, okay, we'll do this. We're going to let people play along at home. So, in your to guess the topic based on this quote by one Google executive. He said that this topic is the number. He argued that it was the number 1 job. It was their number 1 job as a leader was to do this thing well. For those of you playing along at home, what's your guess? What's your guess that this Google leader said this is the number 1 thing that you have to be really good at?
You taught me that there were 3 things that CEOs should do.
And this is one of the
and
3.
This is one of the 3.
Again, another hint at what we're talking about here. So I'm trying to think of
drum roll.
What would another good hint be?
This is for Tom Gillespie, who loves that we don't just dig right into it. So yeah, this is for you, Tom.
We're
making you guess
like crazy. This is for you, Tom.
By the way, Tom also complained that he didn't get a shout out on a podcast. So Tom got a shout out.
Tom now has a shout out. Now he can be. He's probably really patient today. Now that we're talking about him. All right. So for Tom, the topic today is hiring. One Google executive said that basically the number 1 job of any leader was to be able to hire and to be able to build a team.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the second most important job of any leader is to be able to build the team, with the number 1 most important job of being able to set the vision of where we want to go and what team we're trying to build in the first place.
Yep.
And so today we want to talk about hiring. We want to be very pragmatic and practical about it. It's kind of a little bit of a how-to. If you're having trouble with hiring, if you're having trouble finding people who are great and who stick around and who do the job well, we're going to try to help you improve. Now, hiring is not a perfect science. I don't know that anyone who would argue that it is. In fact, even the best hirers are going to miss 20% of the time.
I think it might be higher than that, Dan.
It could be higher.
It's hard.
I know I've had a really high success rate with my hires, but I do think it's a pretty high percentage that you're gonna miss, right? But we want to move from a baseball batting percentage to like an NBA free throw percentage, right? We want to make that transition, and it can have dramatic impact if we do. In fact, there's a group called Top Grading that suggested that the estimated cost of a bad hire ranges anywhere between 5 to 27 times the amount of that person's actual annual salary. So missing on hires not only is emotionally painful, not only does it create bad juju in the business, but it's financially painful. And so this is, you can see why someone might say this is one of the most important things you can get right as a leader and you can learn to do effectively and powerfully as a leader. And there's a very, I don't know if it's an old mantra, but a mantra that we like to use, which is, hire slow, fire fast. And too often we do the reverse, where we fire slow and we hire fast.
Hire fast. Oh,
right?
Yeah. Man, I've done some speed hiring in my career. Dan, just for kicks here, let's just say that that the stat you just gave out was wrong. Like it was not 27%. Let's say it wasn't even 5%. Let's just say it was.
It's not percent.
I'm sorry, not 5 times. Yeah, let's say it was not 5 times. Let's say it's not 27 times. Let's just say it's 2.5 times. Well, if you have a $50,000 employee, that's $125,000. So if if this stat is wrong and it's, like just 2.5 times, I mean, who on this podcast, listening to a podcast about being a lawn care CEO, can write $125,000 checks?
And you
I'm not.
You can own your own number in your own head. Even the cost of mishiring a mow guy, like a field technician that's mowing lawns. When you think about the weight and the tax on the business.
Dan, can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
So we hired the wrong people. This is 15 years ago. So I mean, just keep in mind the inflation of what this would have cost now. But we had a contract. It was $3,000 a month, and it was, I would send 3 mowing guys to this property every week for a day. I think it was $3,000 a month. It was an apartment complex. Nice little size, nice little nugget, right? And I hired fast. And these guys, they all said, "Oh yeah, I grew up mowing grass," that kind of thing, right? They love being outdoors. Didn't want to sit behind a desk. All the things that I would say, "Oh, these guys will be great at mowing lawns." And so they go over, and I show them how we do this property, right? I train them, and do the whole 2-week training. And man, you're an expert. Let's go get this grass cut. And to this point, these people were not trustworthy. They were not diligent. They were not, have a keen eye for detail, to the point where they would skip large sections of this property. And I couldn't be a micromanager at the time. I didn't have time to go watch their work, right? I was sending them 30 minutes away from our shop, trusting that they were going to do the work they were going to do. They'd come back and tell me it was perfect. Week 1, Aaron, they skipped a whole section. Oh, okay. Let me talk. Week 2, skipped another session. And this went on for weeks, and then finally the contract said we're done. So 36 grand just right there, right? And so this is an example of we can't afford to not have people, and we understand that. So if you're listening to this and we share some of these things with you, your instinct, and I challenged Dan on this in our pre-talk about this call. The challenge is it's really hard as a lawn care CEO to build a team and hire people. I get it, man. I've got the t-shirt. I've paid the tax. I've been in your position. But I'm telling you, you can't afford not to hire correctly. You can't afford to not hire. I get it, right? You got to have people. And if you're sitting there today with a team and you're like, man, I got a team of 2 feet and a heartbeats, and that's all they are, and they don't care about my business, and they don't care about these core values I've been thinking about talking to them about, and I know it's not the right, that's fine. Keep getting work done, but you've got to change this team, and you've got to take action. And what we're going to tell you today is how to do it correctly, or how to start attempting to do it more correctly. And we realize it's hard to hire mowing guys. It's a little bit easier to hire fertilization technicians. It's a little bit easier to hire, landscape, managers. It's probably a little easier to hire operations manager. It's probably a little easier to hire, but by the way, as we go up the org chart, these steps get a little bit longer. And so, with all that being said, Dan, where do you start? If I'm a lawn care guy and my staff is not up to par with what I know it needs to be, how do I hire good people? What is the first step?
So, I love that story, and it really is true. And I'll add one just comment before we dig into the how. We have to it's the things we'll teach you today won't make all those problems go away. It will just make all of those problems less painful and make them slightly better. And so, the answer to it's hard to hire isn't I give up. I quit trying. I'll just take whoever I can get. That's not the way we get to a really successful hire. And so our challenge today is to make it a lot better. And it starts with step 1. So step 1 is this. We have to, before we begin the hiring process, be more clear in our vision of what we want this person to do. I've seen too many times in too many businesses that I've coached, they're like, we just need some help. I just need some admin help. I need somebody to go mow a lawn. And we're not very clear about defining exactly what we're looking for in the person that we're trying to hire. It's sort of like I will never speak ill of my wife because she's awesome. But my wife is really good at assuming that I know what she's thinking. So she'll say, "Hey, Dan, will you just go get that thing?" And I'm like, "The thing? Oh yeah, the red thing. Where's the red thing? Well, it's in the place, like above the other thing." And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm looking for because I'm not really clear on what needs to happen. And so in the similar way, like if we aren't clear about what we're looking for, we're not going to be able to recognize it, identify it, and pick it out of a lineup when it comes time for us to like make the selection. And so step one is we want to get really clear on what we're looking for. So Aaron, like for you, like what are some of those things that we want to make sure we're clear on when it comes to getting clear about the role?
Yeah. I mean, I go straight to my org chart, right? I'm looking like, and this comes up in our company where someone will say, "Hey, I think we need some extra help." It's like, cool. Like, where are they going to sit? All right. What seat are they going to sit in? And I think Michael Gerber from eMyth talks about the future org chart, right? If you're out here today and it's you and maybe a helper or two in your company, or you've got a full team, you're a $3 million company. If you don't have an org chart detailing the seats in your company, that's the first place you got to start, right? And so to me, it's like getting clear is where are they going to sit? What are the skill sets that position needs to have, right? Are we hiring a lawn fertilization technician? Are we hiring a customer service representative? Are we hiring a sales representative? Are we hiring a team leader? In our company, a team leader manages multiple route managers and their clients and scheduling and production and issues that come from that. So like, what are the skills that are needed for the job? Where are they going to sit? What are the skills they need to do that job well? What are we should have values. Every company we coach is going to have a really strong sense of their purpose and their core values and their mission. Does the ad that I'm going to write have that in it? And then, who are we looking for, right? Like that's kind of the who we're looking for, right? What will they do? What are their skills? And then, are they going to connect with our values?
One of my favorite books on this topic is called Who, the A Method for Hiring. And the reason I love it is it describes in some level of detail this process. They even suggest writing a job mission statement. So the job mission statement for a mowing technician might be to mow 22 lawns a day with clean lines and few customer complaints. It'd be like a very clear description of that. And then they talk about, hey, we want to define the core responsibilities of that role and how they will be measured. So we understand the objective here is we want you to be able to mow 22 lawns a day, 5 days a week during mowing season, and that's during this period of time. The other way we're going to measure whether or not you're being successful is we're going to have very few, if any, callbacks to that property once we're completed, and that we'll have a high customer retention and satisfaction rate. And so we're getting clear about that's what we want them to do. If we were going to have them talk to the customer and interact with the customer, which I know your technicians do, we want to be clear about that because that requires a little bit different skill set than just, showing up at a property and spraying weeds. That requires a little bit different skill set when you make sure we're defining clearly that that's going to be an expectation. And we do that for two reasons, right? We do that one, so that we're clear about what we're looking for. We also do it so that in the job description, the person will recognize whether or not they can really truthfully, accurately fulfill the job. And sometimes when we say, here's what's going to be expected, we're going to expect you to mow 22 yards a day. When some guy shows up and says, wait, 22 a day? He's going to go, yeah, I'm out. And we don't want that guy anyway because he wasn't going to cut it. So our clarity is kindness for them, and also will attract those people that, yeah, they say, yeah, that's something I could do, and that's something I'd be bought into. So for the initial goal here in step one is for us to be really crystal clear about, again, what's this job about? What will be expected? How will we measure it? And then what skill sets will that person need? And then what attributes or core values will that person live? And once we have that clear picture, I think they call that in Who Not How the scorecard. Once we have the scorecard of what we expect, what we're looking for in hand, only then are we then ready to start the hiring process.
No, perfect. I mean, that, and again, you know, if you're listening to this and you've probably hired people in the past, you know, have you been that clear? And if you aren't, that's a great place to start. And by the way, the cool thing is you can probably do that once or twice for each position and it's done. Yeah. So maybe just take an afternoon and say, okay, I'm going to be clear on these positions and just work on these because these are ones I've got to kind of feel the most, right? We know there's going to be turnover in the industry. Like, you're not going to keep people forever. It's the industry. We get it. So like, get clear on that. And so when you get to the hiring portion, when you get to hiring that position, I'm ready, right? I just pull that tool out and I use it.
And if you come to find that you hired and you kind of missed on the hire, I will recommend you go back to that document and you double check. What didn't we evaluate? Or was there something that we missed in our communication of the expectation? Maybe on the be willing to mow lawns in 120-degree Arizona summer heat. I saw one application, one job description that said, mowing lawns in Arizona is brutal. Like, not for the faint of heart, right? Because they know that people don't hack it. They're looking for somebody who is aware of that right up front, and that hopefully helps them hire better. Okay, that's principle number one. Once we're clear, well, now that the second question is, how do we get high quality candidates to show up at our doorstep that are going to be awesome, that are going to work, that are going to pass all of our tests and be a long-term, long-standing employee at our company? And to me, hiring totally transformed in my mind when I replaced the word hiring ad and I put in marketing promotion. When I recognized, oh, all hiring is us advertising and selling, because I was really good at advertising and selling. Like, I knew what advertising and selling was. I knew how to write pretty good sales copy. I knew how to sell when somebody like got in front of me. I knew what kind of things to say that would entice people into taking the action that I wanted them to take, which was to buy a product. And once I finally dawned on me, holy cow, all hiring is a different kind of marketing and selling. And so when you go to the market, when you apply those same principles you already know how to do, you're in business because you know how to sell and market. You apply those same principles to 100%, apply those principles almost 100% to hiring, you're going to see huge difference in the quantity and quality of candidates that you get.
Yeah. I think the first thing I would challenge anyone we're coaching, Dan, or we're talking to about hiring in their company is I would want to read their last ad they put out. And I would want you to genuinely ask yourself, put yourself in the position of the person reading this ad and say, is this a team I would join? Right? And I bet that you're probably putting out a really bad ad. If you're having turnover.
I was joking with Aaron before the call, but I was telling him that whenever I get depressed as an entrepreneur and I'm like, maybe I just go get a job. I just go read hiring ads that are so bad and so boring and so unmotivating that I'm like, there's no way I could ever go get a job.
What are the, like, give me your top, like, one or two things that are like red flags, Dan, when you read a bad lawn care ad? What is the thing that stands out to you? Like, what's the one or two top things that you're like, oh, I can tell that's a bad ad.
Yeah. The first thing, honestly, is if it sounds like it was written by someone in HR, I'm immediately turned off by it.
Okay. So the copy.
We are looking for an enthusiastic and highly engaged worker for this position. You know, it's like I can't even speak how bad it sounds.
Yeah.
Right. And so the first thing I'm looking for when I look for a good ad is if it sounds like a human being instead of a robot. If it sounds like ChatGPT, and too many ads really do, they sound like ChatGPT because they were written by some corporate-y person.
Yeah.
We are a dynamic and forward-thinking company seeking a dedicated and efficient. Our team thrives on excellence and innovation. Right? We don't talk like that. Who talks like that? Nobody.
Yeah, and
like.
And you made a good point. Like yeah, and you made a good point. Like if the content, if the copy is all about the company and what you can do for the company, you know, again, like what's going to make, to me, like we should be targeting and encouraging people who are employed to apply to our ads. Like, I think that's the trick. Like if I were coaching you, Dan, and you're like, hey man, I've been hiring. I was like, well, cool. How many employed people responded to your ad? How many unemployed people? If you've got a list of unemployed people, like, hey man, tell me about your last job. Well, I got laid off. And you know, every person calls you is laid off or out of work. You're attracting the wrong people. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't good people who occasionally lose their job and they wander into our company and they become awesome. That be transparent. My general manager is that person, but that is not the norm. and so we've got to
maybe a good way to do this, Aaron, is to give this example. It just dawned on me, this example. So we were hiring a virtual assistant in the Philippines, and it's pretty low paying job. And there's a website you can put your ad out in. And the first attempt at it, we just took a stock job description that was kind of written by some coach of ours. And I'll read you the first two paragraphs, and then I'll read you I updated the version and got way better candidates, way more engaging people, and found a great hiring ad. But I'll share with you the two different ones. You can tell me which job you would chase after if you were looking for a job. Version 1. We are a dynamic and forward-thinking company seeking a dedicated and efficient virtual assistant based in the Philippines. Our team thrives on excellence and innovation, and we are looking for a proactive individual to join our remote workforce. This role is pivotal to ensuring smooth operations and maintaining our high service standards. As a virtual assistant, you will manage client communications and handle day-to-day administrative tasks. Your contribution will help us maintain our reputation as a responsive and customer-oriented company.
That's ChatGPT.
Whoa. Sounds like a robot, right? This is my attempt. I don't know how good this is, but this was my quick update. As you can see by our website, we're a small lawn care CEO consulting firm focused on helping lawn care business owners do more good in the world. Our goal is to offer world-class coaching that really helps CEOs we serve thrive. We want to help them create businesses that are both highly profitable and also great places to work for their leaders and staff. As you might imagine, we practice what we preach and are working together a team shares a set of values that's aligned around a common purpose. We are a purpose-driven and values-based company. Here are our values. We treat people as wow. We listen, we care, we serve. We do the smart thing. We check our egos at the door. We prioritize people over profits. We win through excellence. We want this to be your favorite job ever. It will be hard work, but we have an amazing team of caring people and want you to feel part of that team. We're looking for a virtual assistant, and it goes on. So, like, which one would you respond to?
If you're employed and you read that, and by the way, employed people are always kind of have their eye out there, right? What's the next best thing? And 100%, there's no chance I'm responding employed to the first ad, and there's a really good chance I'm investigating the second one. Let me let me share this. So this is straight off of Indeed in my marketplace. I won't say the name of the company. We don't coach them. It's not anybody we coach, but this is just lawn technician, lawn care technician, names the company, names the location, $17.50 to $18.50 an hour. And then it says job description. We are in search of a hardworking team player to join us as a landscaper, sorry. You'll follow the crew leader to perform the lawn care and maintenance duties for our customers, including mowing, fertilization, mulching, edging, raking, pruning, and any additional landscape tasks. Job seekers should take pride in quality workmanship and enjoy working with others. Compensation, $17.50 to $18.50 per hour. And then it lists responsibilities: assist your team with customers' landscape design, landscape construction, complete lawn care, right? Qualifications: excellent stamina, physical health, hard worker. And it tells about the company, that they're a professional grade service company in the market, right? And then here's a hiring ad that we've used in the past. Position.
By the way, like nobody's gonna, like, if you were sitting across the desk from someone who said, "Hey, I'm kind of curious about, do you have any jobs available?" No one says, "Thanks for asking if we have jobs available. We are a dynamic and forward-thinking company seeking dedicated and effective." Right?
So, yeah. So this is our counter to that. So same position, right? If we were hiring, we'd be looking for a lawn fertilization field technician. Let me just tell you this real quick. We use Indeed very well. I've actually had many clients use Indeed really well for finding lawn, technicians, right? Lawn care people. And I will tell you, I call this position internally a route manager, because they manage the client, they manage the route, they manage the relationship. That is a bad term to use for Indeed. But internally we call these people route managers, and we believe it. But lawn fertilization technician is the best keyword for Indeed for what we do, right?
Yeah. And that's sort of, by the way, a little bit back to where we started, which is like, this is like marketing. You may need to split test a couple of like job descriptions, a couple of titles, a couple of things to see what kind of results.
100%, Dan. If I were in a high turnover market like mowing, or and I were hiring local people, I wasn't using H2B. Obviously, if you're using H2B, it's a different ball game. But if you're hiring local people to do your seasonal mowing, I would 100%. I'd probably pick 3 different ads and run them and see which one got me the best results. But here's the counter to that ad that we just read. It says the title, and it says, "Please do not apply until you read this carefully. We have built a career where our team wins and our company, RDS Lawn Care, wins together. Our company's purpose is to impact people and save lawns. Our goal is to provide a career opportunity that positively impacts our team members' health and financial future. We do this by creating a work environment that allows our team members to create the income they desire while maintaining a good home and work-life balance. We offer all team members health care and retirement matching after only 90 days of employment. We aim to onboard new team members quickly and enable you to reach your full potential in our company. Our leadership team believes that happy team members will treat each other and our clients great. If you currently work in an environment that's opposite of this, or your current career path is stalled, we encourage you to apply and investigate the wonderful opportunity we have available." We mention our core values. We mention your role. As a lawn fertilization technician, you'll be the front line of our mission to save lawns. You'll diagnose lawn health and plan and execute fertilization schedules and interact directly with your clients, not our clients, your clients, right? You're managing the relationship. This is your client. By the way, our technicians get paid on performance, so it is their client, right?
Yeah.
You'll be given the autonomy to make critical decisions that affect the health and customer satisfaction. What are we looking for? Passion for outdoor work and a keen eye for detail, knowledge of lawn care and maintenance, excellent communication skills to interact with clients, physical fitness to perform outdoor tasks, a valid driver's license. What are the perks of being at RDS Lawn Care? And nurturing.
Pause just real quick.
Yeah.
So when we get to this point in the job description, because we need to say, here's what we're looking for. We want the reader of this ad to think to themselves when they get to that point, "I really hope I qualify. I really hope I qualify. I really hope I qualify. I really hope I qualify." so because they've so like been impressed or bought in by the marketing, the sales job of those first few paragraphs. And I love, Aaron, that you're even saying, hey, if you're in a place that isn't like this, meaning you're employed, but you're not happy, come check us out. Like, this could be a great spot for you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
But. No. I mean, those are all great points. And essentially, like, we won't bore you with all this stuff, but the bottom line is, which one, we just gave you two examples, an admin, which all of you probably will hire at some point, and, a lawn care technician. You can write by the way, our compensation is annual compensation. So we list compensation between.
This is a big deal. Talk about why this. Yeah. You don't do hourly, you do.
Because we pay full time, like it's a full time, it's a career, right? We just told you we're paying 75% of your healthcare. We're doing a 3% retirement match, and we pay between, it's really $48,000 to $55,000 a year, somewhere in that range. It's all based on their performance. It could be lower than $48,000, but the bottom line is we list the annual salary because, again, if I'm employed, I don't think an hourly job is necessarily a career move, right? Now, listen, I did used to run an ad similar to this, and I paid hourly, and guess what I did? I did the math on what hourly was, salaried, and I put that in the description. And so don't list an hourly job. That's not going to motivate me to think that's a career move. That's a job that I would leave a good job to go to that job for. I just think hourly kind of says temporary or
and the
not career.
Principle here is that in our original description of who we're looking for, that's our client avatar. Think marketing. That's our client avatar, and we want to design a job that's going to fit that client avatar. And Aaron wants to find guys who probably have a little bit of a family. They're raising kids. They have.
We even say it, Dan. Look, we do this by creating a work environment that allows team members to create the income they desire while maintaining a good home and work-life balance. Now, let me say this: I can say that and sell that. I better do that too. And by the way, we do that. And so let me just tell you this: if you have turnover in your company and you're working guys 60 hours a week every week, you're not going to hire like people with families and community people and people that have roots in your community. Yeah. That's you can't burn people.
Aaron, you know what you're looking for, and then you write a job description, just like in marketing. I know I know the client I'm trying to reach, and I can write the job description that will get that person through the door. I do think there are some groups and cultures where an hourly rate is going to be more attractive than a salary, but because I'm looking for a guy who's looking for a salary and benefits, and I'm going to promote that, and that's what's going to allow me to attract or draw in the people that I'm looking for. And by the way, and like I know you had good success with that ad. Do you remember how many applicants you had for that position? We definitely had. Gosh, the response was well over 10, like 10 to 15, somewhere in that range. And then we had 6 people or 5 to 6 people that were just really, really solid. Like we were deciding, like it wasn't like, all right, come on, you're the only one that responded. Like we were making decisions, and then we're going to talk about this next step. We did this a little differently. It was kind of seasonal. Last time we hired was in the fall of 2023. And we actually did a little bit of a gauntlet where we hired a couple people. By the way, like in case that skated by you, Aaron hasn't had to think about hiring since the fall of 2023. And it's currently the middle of 2024.
Yeah, we're not having turnover.
And so it's just one of the benefits of hiring correctly is that we eliminate.
And there's also some advantages in the type of company we've designed. It's a lot of things. So if you're a mowing person, I'm not a mowing guy. I don't have mowing routes. So I want to be fair. But what I'll tell you is the type of candidates that we had come in were really solid. And they just talked about their families in the interview. They talked about the things they like to do outside of work. I mean, we obviously, tried to, ask questions that would lead them to share some of those things. And, one of the guys that came, his daughter's a real big travel softball player. And he said, it's really important for me to be able to be with her on Saturdays and the weekends. And we're like, cool. We try really hard not to work Saturdays and we honor that as much as we can. And certainly if you have a conflict, we'll understand. The thing that we did was we actually hired a little more than we needed to in a high season. And knowing that going into the off season, we might not need as many. And there was some natural selection that took place. One person just didn't really like the job. Of the three that we hired, one kind of didn't like the job. One rose to the top. He's become a really solid technician for us and somebody that's going to grow in our company. And then the other one, you could just tell wasn't as good as the other one. And we made a selection. That's one way you can do it. I don't like that way the best, Dan. I think what we'd like to do is sort of talk about the third step. So the first step was design the job, right? Who you're looking for? What are the skill sets? What are your values, right? The second thing is you got to market this thing so that people know the people who are employed are interviewing for your job, right? And we went into depth about that. The third thing is now you got candidates. What's the third step? And I think this is where people really mess up, Dan. Talk about what that third step is.
Well, this is the hard work in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone tends to be doing at least that second step where they're writing a job description. We just write a better one. But it's the part where we're hiring slow. And at the end of the day, in order for us to evaluate talent. Now I recognize for some of you, you're going, with a mowing guy, I'm not evaluating talent. I'm just, the old saying, 2 feet in a heartbeat.
Is he standing? Can he stand straight? Can he hold that weed eater?
And I'm going to argue that even there, we need to evaluate whether or not they're going to do the job. Because as much as you may have 2 feet in a heartbeat, I don't want you here for a week. I don't want you here for 8 days. I don't want you even really here for 6 weeks. Like, it's going to be way better for me to, if I can, slow down and wait an extra day or two to get the right guy rather than just hiring the first person that walks through the door. And so we call this the hiring gauntlet. We want to design a hiring gauntlet that only the brave, true employees that we're going to hire can survive, that they can get through. Mm-hmm. And so when we design a hiring gauntlet, it's going to have multiple steps. And the steps are designed to give us two things. Number one, we want to put these people in a variety of situations, so a variety of environments. And we want to put them in we want to get the perspective of a variety of perspectives or people. So I want more than one person's eyes on this process, and I want to see them in more than one environment as we go through this. So that's kind of the underlying principle. So let's talk about what we might design for a hiring gauntlet. If I'm hiring a fertilization technician, what that might look like. So usually step one always, and they're evaluating, by the way, through this process. One, I'm evaluating, can they do the job? Can they successfully do the job? But that's not all. I'm also evaluating, will they fit in on our team? Mm-hmm. Will they fit in on our team? Are they a core values fit with our crew? And if they're not, by the way, sometimes you can have a high performer that isn't a fit. And when that happens, it's almost as bad, if not worse, than having a low performer who's a core values fit. We call them kind of a lovable loser, where it's like they aren't very good at the job, but man, everybody loves them. And I almost rather have that guy than the guy who's really good at their job. Everyone hates them, and it kills the culture, and it causes toxic problems. So again, two things we're evaluating. Do they fit in? And the second one is, can they perform? Can they do the job? And so first thing I do, step one in the gauntlet, is I usually do what I call even before that, I may give them, so for example, when we're hiring a virtual assistant.
Oh, this is pretty cool.
We ask them to do a task before we even contacted them. So they would apply, and we had an automated email that was sent to them that said, hey, thanks for applying. We're super excited. We have one more thing we need you to do. Because one of our criteria when we got clear about what we wanted a VA is somebody who would pay attention to details and follow through on tasks. So guess what we're going to do? The very first thing we're going to test is we're going to test, can you pay attention to the details of an email and follow through on a task? And so we had, I think, for this position, and again, overseas, you get a lot more. We had, I think, about 85 people apply.
You had 200, like,
we had 200 people that were interested.
I'm interested.
We had 85 that actually submitted an application.
Gotcha. Okay.
And out of those 85, we sent this email and we said, hey, will you follow these few simple steps and fill out this form?
The steps were fill out the form and then upload a quick video of yourself.
Yeah. And part of the form was send a video, give us your resume, answer a bunch of questions. It was it would have taken them probably 30 minutes to complete. Mm-hmm. So we're evaluating. Will you follow through on a task? Are you committed to this job? And before we even talked to them, we filtered down from, I think, 85 to about 30 applicants. So we filtered through 50 applicants without even saying a word to them, just as a part of our automated process. So you may do something like that if you want to kind of like add a little hoop they have to jump through before they even get on a interview or a phone call. So that'd be step one. Step two, we conducted a short interview. I call it a values phone screen. And our values phone screen is, are you a core values fit? Can I evaluate whether or not you're a core values fit? And do you sound like the kind of person we could get along with? So I literally say, I just want to have a quick phone call. And I get on, and the reason I say quick phone call, not 15-minute, not 30-minute, is because if I get on in the first 4 words, I'm like, nope. I wrap that call pretty quick, and I'm moving on to the next one. Okay? And so that's step 2, values phone screen. Step 3, what would step 3 be, Aaron?
Yeah, so step 2 is we're going to have them come in. Like if they make it through that phone screen, then we want to meet them in person. Like we now, in our virtual admin, it was a Zoom call. And it could be if you're doing an admin, like guys, you're not just going to only hire field workers, right? At some point, you're going to hire team leaders and general managers and admins and HR and all kinds of things, right? As you're scaling these companies, and you're the CEO of a company, you're going to have more difficult hires, but you want to be in person with that. In person with that person, right? You want to be together, and there's kind of a 2-part to this. Like you'd want to sit down at maybe a conference table or a desk setting and just ask some questions, right? Maybe depending on the type of hire, the owner and the division manager are sitting there talking to this person, and we're asking the typical questions, right? To just get to know these people more. What I'm trying to learn in those interviews, Dan, is I want to hear. I'll say, hey, man, what do you like to do outside of work? And you know what I'm listening for? Kids, ball games, like things that they do with the family, right? Do they like to fish or hunt? Do they, honestly, hey guys, just a little thing I've picked up on, man, if somebody likes fishing and hunting, they probably like being outside doing this work. Right? So like if you're in a market where there's like a big hunting and fishing scene, those are probably pretty decent guys to think about for doing hard outside work, right? I'm listening for, are they married? And by the way, my avatar is I want to find, folks who have family, mortgages or rent, they've been in the community for a few years and they like this area. Like the worst thing is I've hired some people who are from another area who moved here recently, and then they didn't really like the area and they moved back real quick. Like that's a hard hire. And so I'm just trying to listen for keywords that they say during that time. Right.
And I'll also add on to that, because we did step 1 correctly, we know what we're looking for. And so the interview should be focused around, in part, in addition to these other things, hey, we need you to show up on time. So one of the things I'm going to pay attention to, if showing up on time is a thing, I'm going to maybe give them, if they don't show up on time to the interview, it's not a good sign. Or I might say, out of 10 times, how many times were you late in the last when's the last time you were late to your job, and why were you late? If on-time attendance is an important part of me, I might ask questions about that. If one of the skill sets I'm evaluating is their ability to have a keen eye for detail, I might say, tell me about a project you work on that required a keen eye for detail, and listen to see if they have a very good detailed response or if they have kind of a generalized lame response. So I'm using that description to help in this hiring process as I sit down across from the table.
Yeah. And then, we're going to be in that, it's probably 25, 30 minutes. And then we're going to get up. We're going to leave that area. And we're going to walk around the shop or the office or, whatever. Yeah. And then just kind of share with them. I like to show them, right? Because I feel like I'm recruiting them as much as I'm trying to figure them out too, right? I want to, hey, here's the type of equipment that we use. And and Dan, you made a good point in our talk about this earlier. You said, well, like, I would want to ask them, like, how do you think these trucks are set up well? Well, anything you would change, or, just look for them to bring some strategy to the conversation, right? Are they strategic in any way? Do they, how do they offer suggestions? I only care
if they're strategic if one of my job description elements is like ability to solve problems, right? Like, if not, if it's just sit down and mow, I'm okay if you don't have answers.
Sure. Exactly. But that walking interview, again, most people are going to be very uncomfortable sitting at the conference room and talking. It's going to be really stuffy. And so you like you said, Dan, let's see how many different, we got them on the phone. We saw some things they submitted possibly. And obviously, if you're doing a mowing thing, don't have them submit a Google form. You're probably not going to get a lot of responses. They're mowing and they're out in the field because they don't want to do admin tasks. So don't ask them to go through that. But the phone interview, I'm listening to how they communicate over the phone. I'm listening to how they communicate while they're sitting. Are they patient? Are they listening?
And as I'm walking around the shop, I call this a walking tour. One, I'm introducing them to people that we meet. So if the office staff is there, I'm saying, hey, let me introduce you to Dave. Dave's applying for that position. And I'm looking for how they interact with each other. Mm-hmm. But I'm also looking for, when I go walk over to the mowers, I'm like, hey man, check out this mower. And if they're leaning forward, like, oh, that's cool, or let me see this, or like, I'm looking for how they engage with the equipment. And usually that's also the time they're going to talk about, oh, we used to use mowers like this, or when I was at my last job, we had it like this. And we're beginning to kind of see them in that environment. If possible, and I've seen some companies do this, I may, like, the other environment I might want them in is I might want to see them work. And so I have seen some people say, hey, we're going to, if you pass this second level of interview, we're going to have you come out for a day. Could we get you, do you have some time off or whatever, come out for a day with us? We just want to show you what it's like to be out there. We want to get you sweating a little and see how you feel about it. And so to get them out for a day, you have to check your labor laws because you may have to pay that day, which would be fine, to get them out and just see them in the field as much as we could, or some version of that, right? So I might even say, hey, why don't you pick up the sprayer? Let's go walk the front of our property here. I'd love to see just how you feel, how that feels for you, and just get a chance to see them and what they're doing. One of the mistakes I think we often make is we hire someone before we ever see them do the thing that we want them to do. And that could be whatever version of that might be, as close as we can get to that, I guess is the point. Within reason, I would encourage us to get there. Even if it was, hey, jump on this mower. Do you know how to turn it on? Like, let's see. Yeah. Right. Let's get some.
So step one is, depending on what you're hiring, if it's more admin related, you're probably going to have some type of a form they need to upload to you, and maybe a video would be great. Step two then would be the in-person interview. If you're doing more labor, you're going to kind of start on step two, in-person interview with sit down for a moment, go walk around the property. The third or fourth step, depending on which one you're on, is the next one, which is a peer interview. Like, man, have the candidate come back in and meet some of the team, and maybe that's the working part, Dan, or maybe it's like, come in during our morning routine and I want you to, maybe you've got a seasoned tech and you can kind of coach them on how to ask some questions and just kind of get the gut feel of that person. And
I love the idea of, at the very least, once we've been through that first interview and we feel good about them, maybe we're down 2 or 3 candidates, we say, hey, show up. Let's just have you come in tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. or whatever time you start, 6:30 a.m. We'll have you join our morning routine, meet the guys, and we'll kind of help that. Like maybe you can chip in while we're helping these guys get rolling out in the morning. I think having them in that environment, having the guys size them up a little, you're going to get some good feedback from your guys as far as who might be a good fit and who might not.
And then the final step, fourth or fifth step, depending on where you are, is you've said, okay, this is the one.
Yeah.
And then we need to ask for a reference check. And, Dan and I talked about this, and I thought back, Dan, there's 2 that come to mind. I had a reference check one time. This is 15 years ago. And I called and they said, this person's rehireable. I was like, okay. Any care to elaborate? I mean, they worked there a good while. I mean, nope, this person's rehireable. And I was like, oh, well, we hired them. And as it turns out, this person had some issues. They were not very honest.
Refireable.
Yeah. And I go back and I think back and I was like, they were being very careful, obviously, right? I mean, in reference check, I don't know really what you can say legally. It's all state dependent, I'm sure. I know if someone calls me, if I can't give a glowing report, I'm probably going to say, oh, they were good. They were good. I'm not going to be just like,
yep.
I'm definitely not going to say they're horrible. Don't ever hire them again. I mean, I don't know what you can say. So I'm careful. I get that. But I got another one that comes to mind, and I'm still friends with this person today. He moved back to Maryland, and matter of fact, he's kind of wanting to start a lawn care company. We talked a few months ago, but at any rate, he had moved here from Maryland. He's kind of looking for a fresh start. He was in his early 20s, and he was he installed indoor sprinklers in apartments and commercial buildings, and he's just an awesome dude, and his reference was amazing. His boss is like, I'm sad he left. He's going to be an awesome person for you. He's a hard worker. He's just a great dude. He loves people. Like, he was just going on and on and on. And that guy was awesome. Right. And those are 2 that just came to mind. There's part of me thought that, why would you give a reference if somebody's going to say bad stuff about you? But you never know. It doesn't hurt. You may get snowed.
One of my favorite questions actually is, if I do ask for references during an interview, is just to say, I have these references here. What are they going to say about you on the pro side? And what do you think they might say about you on the con side? Because I'm going to call and I'm going to verify. Well, sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't call and verify, but I get really revealing answers, because now they're going, oh, okay. So there was this one time when, and
there's this large pile of cash, and the reality though, Dan, is I'm sitting here thinking about this call that we're on, and we're talking about hiring, and I just know what the people that are listening to this are saying. Guys, if you need 5 people and you don't have any, these rules aren't going to apply to you. You've got to get your place. If you
want to speed up the process, you can do all of these steps in a day.
Sure.
And you can say, come in, we're going to do a few steps. You can do it in groups. Sure. You can say, hey, we're going to do a group hiring event where we're going to bring everyone in, and there are other ways to do it.
But the point is, though, like what I was going to make is, don't get to that point. We're talking about being a lawn care CEO, like being a really good, like going from a good to a great company. Right? The great companies are forecasting out and are saying, oh, our KPIs show us, guys, we're getting really close to needing that next technician. Have we started the process?
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're not weekly looking at a group of KPIs and saying, like, Dan, tomorrow's my meeting, and I'll go in there and say, how many clients do we have? And I've got this quick math I do in my head that tells me, ooh, okay, the next technician, the next route manager is ready. We're getting close. By the way, when do you hire the next route manager? Not when you need them, before you need them, right? You got to get to that point.
6 weeks in advance, right?
Yeah. And so again, this is the steps that you would have put in place if you're being proactive. If you're reactive and you've got a bad thing going on, you're gonna have to do some different things, and we understand that. We're trying to get out of that reactive mode. That's everything that we teach here, and so I think by no means are we hiring experts, but we've hired people, and I hire people every day, and Dan and I are looking at hiring more technical people in our company here together, and this gauntlet and then some will be in place for sure. And the more attractive your job is, the more selective you should be.
Yeah,
for
sure.
And avoid the, Dan, you're really good at this. Avoid the, hey, I know someone. That's fine. If you know someone you think's great for it, throw them in the mix. They can go through the gauntlet too. Let the cream rise to the top.
When anyone only interviews one person for the job,
mm-hmm.
because it's so hard. If you have no one to compare them to, of course they're going to look great. If I'm stranded on a deserted island, there's only one woman there, she's going to be gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, in order for us to actually hire someone, like, you need to compare them against 2 or 3 great candidates. So be leery of like hiring that first person that you look at. It's a mistake I made before, right? Where it's like, oh, well, they seem good. And we got to be careful. We got to like run them through the process. Hire slow.
Dan, we have daughters, right? It just dawned on me. It's like, yeah, I mean, my daughter, I don't want her to date the first dude that asked her to the dance, or marry the first dude that asked her to the dude.
That you go with.
Yeah. So just be selective. Yeah. And so listen, Dan, we talked about maybe we'll get this hiring ad to Via, and maybe the one that you did for the admin. Maybe we could give the community like an admin hiring example ad, the content, the copy, and the lawn care one that I have.
All right. We'll just commit to do that. If you want the sample copies that we suggested here, feel free to email info@ceocoach.biz, info@ceocoach.biz, or go to our website and just request it through the contact us page, and we'll share that with you. If it's easier for you just to copy, swipe and deploy, we can do that too.
Yep.
All right, you guys. Hey, listen, hopefully this conversation on hiring is helpful. Hopefully you are willing to like believe us that slow, committed hiring with very clear intentionality is going to benefit you in the end. Because when you do, like, life gets so much easier. When we hire A players, everyone, like, our life just gets easier and easier and easier. And instead of the chain you're pulling along in your business, it's the horses that are pulling you forward when you get the right people in your business. Hope that's the case. As always, do more good in the world. We love you guys. Have a good one.